When your husband takes the money meant for your future, and spends it on his mistress, it doesn't just break your heart. It breaks something deeper. But the night I found out, I didn't cry. I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. I'd already planned my exit, and my silence would become the loudest revenge he'd ever hear. The snow was supposed to be ours. Every flake, every slope, every dream of the Alps, ours. It had been the only thing keeping me going through the endless grind of work and bills and the quiet ache of distance growing between us. Ethan had promised that for our second anniversary, we'd finally go skiing in Switzerland, just like the winter he'd proposed. "We'll relive the magic," he said, kissing my forehead. "You'll see, Clara, it'll be perfect." That envelope we kept in the drawer, marked for us, was more than money. It was love, trust, a symbol of everything we'd built. Each month, we tucked away a little bit of hope. I had no idea that while I was counting bills, Ethan was counting lies. At first, the signs were small enough to ignore. He started coming home later, smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume. He'd turn his phone face down, his smile rehearsed and his excuses smoother than ever. "Just work, babe," he'd say. "You know how demanding clients can be." And I did know, because I was the one managing most of them. I handled his social media, his emails, even his invoices. I built his brand from the ground up while he took credit for the polish. I told myself he was just busy, that he still loved me. But one evening, as I waited for him to come home, I saw something I couldn't unsee. A notification blinked on my phone. It was his name, tagged in a photo from a coworker's account. I clicked it out of curiosity, expecting a work event. Instead, I saw him at dinner, with her. Lydia, the woman who once smiled too brightly at our wedding, who sent him heart emojis under every business post, who laughed too hard at his jokes. He wasn't touching her, not yet. But there was something in his eyes. A tenderness I hadn't seen in months. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe just a client dinner. Maybe I was being paranoid again. But the truth doesn't hide forever, it waits for the perfect moment to cut. That moment came the night before our anniversary. I went to retrieve the envelope from our drawer, already imagining the plane tickets, the snow, the way we'd laugh like we used to. But when I opened the drawer, my hand froze. The envelope was gone. At first, I thought I'd misplaced it. I tore through the room, under the bed, behind the dresser, through my handbag. Nothing. A hollow feeling sank into my chest as I picked up my phone to call him, only to stop halfway. A new story had popped up on his feed. There he was, Ethan, laughing in a ski jacket, holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, "Celebrating life with the one who makes it magical." And beside him, wearing my dream vacation smile, was Lydia. The white snow in the picture looked blinding. I couldn't breathe, my vision blurred, but no tears came. I just stared at the photo, replaying every word he'd ever said about love, loyalty, and our future. Our future, now melting under her ski boots. That night, the silence in our apartment was so heavy it hummed. I sat on the couch, my wedding ring glinting faintly under the lamp. It felt foreign, like a chain instead of a promise. I didn't scream or throw anything. I didn't even call him. Because deep down, I realized something. He didn't just betray me, he underestimated me. While he spent our savings pretending to live a life of passion, he forgot that I was the one who made that life possible. I knew every password, every account, every piece of paperwork his business depended on. He had no idea how much control I actually had, because he never paid attention. And that would be his downfall. I brewed tea to steady my shaking hands and opened my laptop. The glow of the screen illuminated the room like a secret being born. I began changing passwords, one after another. Every account he thought he owned was technically under my name. His business, the brand he flaunted, the very clients who praised him, it all traced back to me. He'd told me once, "You're my backbone, Clara." That night, I decided to remove the spine. The next morning, I packed my clothes, my laptop, and my pride. No tears, no goodbyes. Just the quiet rhythm of a woman who had finally stopped begging for respect. Before leaving, I wrote a note, simple, direct, final. "You spent our future on her. I decided to invest mine elsewhere. Don't look for me, you won't find me." I placed it on the counter beside my ring and the key he'd given me the day we moved in. Then I walked out the door without looking back. Mia, my best friend since college, was waiting in her car outside. I had called her the night before, voice steady but heart raw. "I'm done," I'd said. "And I need to disappear." She didn't ask questions. She just drove. We drove for hours until the city lights faded into fields and silence. She found me a small cottage 3 towns away, near the sea. It wasn't glamorous or large, but it was mine. No traces of Ethan, no memories of lies. Just space to breathe. For weeks, I rebuilt myself in fragments. Mornings spent working as a freelance marketer under a new business name, Lunaris Consulting. Nights spent staring at the waves, learning to love the quiet. Clients who once adored Ethan's genius quickly found their way to me when his communication began to collapse. I didn't have to expose him. I just had to let him fall on his own. 3 days after he returned from his trip, I imagine he must have found the note. I pictured his face as he read it, the confusion turning to panic. He must have realized then that his accounts were inaccessible, his clients unreachable, his foundation gone. Everything he had built on my trust crumbled in silence. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean, like the frost after a storm. Months passed. The woman who once cried over his lies learned to laugh at her own freedom. My hands no longer trembled when I signed my name on contracts. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. Then, one cold evening, I saw him again. Not in person, but on TV. The headline read, "Ethan Cole's business under investigation for fraud." I watched as reporters spoke of his debts, his unpaid taxes, his lost investors. He looked pale, defeated, and older than his years. The man who once thought he could buy happiness with betrayal was now standing in ruins. I sat back, sipping tea, the steam curling upward like smoke from a fire long burned out. I didn't smile out of cruelty. I smiled out of peace. Because while he was busy chasing illusions on snow-covered mountains, I had found something far rarer than luxury or revenge. I had found myself. He used our wedding money to take her skiing, and I disappeared without a trace. He thought I'd be broken, hiding somewhere, crying into old photographs. But the truth was far from it. The day I left was the day I began again. The woman he betrayed no longer existed. The one who came after was quieter, smarter, and untouchable. A year had passed since that night. My name was no longer Clara Cole, it was Clara Hart. A name that carried no history, no pain, no attachments. I lived by the sea now, in a small coastal town where no one cared who I'd been. The locals just knew me as the woman with calm eyes and an old laptop who always worked by the window of a cafe called Harbor Light. The air here smelled of salt and beginnings. Every morning, I watched the sunrise bleed over the horizon, the waves crashing against the shore like applause for survival. My new business, Lunaris Strategies, was growing faster than I'd ever imagined. What started as freelance work had become a small firm run entirely by women, designers, writers, marketers, all of us carrying invisible scars from the people who once made us feel small. We built brands with honesty, something Ethan's company never understood. Clients stayed because we listened, cared, delivered. It wasn't about ego anymore, it was about purpose. I used to measure my worth through his success, now I measured it through peace. But peace has a way of being interrupted. It happened on a Thursday evening. I was working late, the office quiet except for the soft hum of the heater and the ocean wind rattling the glass. My phone vibrated once, an unknown number. I ignored it. Then again. Then a voicemail notification. Something inside me twisted. Maybe curiosity, maybe dread. I pressed play. "Clara, please. It's me. I don't know where else to go." His voice. Weaker, almost unrecognizable. I froze. My breath hitched as his words continued, broken by pauses and guilt. I lost everything. The business, the house, even Lydia. She took what was left and vanished. They're auditing me, Clara. I can't sleep. I can't think. I miss you. Please, I need you. The message ended with a shaky exhale. For a long time, I sat in silence, the only sound the steady rhythm of the waves below. I thought about deleting it, but my hand wouldn't move. There was a strange ache in my chest, not love, not pity, just the ghost of what used to be. Ethan had always believed I couldn't survive without him. That was his biggest mistake. I wasn't going to call him back. But a part of me wanted closure, not revenge this time, not triumph. Just an ending. The next morning, I walked along the pier, phone in hand, the sea mist cold against my skin. I dialed his number before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the first ring, voice trembling. Clara, I said nothing. Please, he whispered, just let me explain. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I thought Lydia cared, but she was using me. Everything fell apart after you left. You were the only one who ever believed in me. His words might have broken me once, but now they felt distant, like echoes through glass. I finally spoke, my tone calm, steady. Do you remember the mountains, Ethan? He hesitated. What? The Alps, I said softly. The place you promised we'd go together. He sighed, pain heavy in his voice. Clara, please don't. You did go, I interrupted. Just not with me. Tell me, was it worth it? Silence. Then, quietly, no. I nodded to myself even though he couldn't see me. Good, I said, because that's all you'll have left, memories of what you destroyed. Clara, please, he begged, voice breaking. Can't we talk? I just need a chance to make things right. I closed my eyes. You had your chance, Ethan. You spent our future on someone else. I built mine without you. Don't call again. Then I hung up. The moment felt final, like a door quietly closing after years of noise. I walked back home as the wind carried away the last traces of his voice. When I reached my cottage, I stood for a while looking out at the ocean. The water was dark and endless, but it no longer scared me. It mirrored what I'd become, deep, calm, and untouchable. That night, I opened my laptop and began writing an email to my team. I told them about a new project I wanted to launch, a program to support women rebuilding their lives after betrayal, divorce, or loss. I called it Project Phoenix. The idea was simple: help women turn pain into purpose, to rise from ashes into something stronger. The responses came quickly, messages of excitement, of shared understanding. My team didn't just work for me, they believed in me. For the first time, I wasn't creating something to prove my worth to someone else. I was creating something because I finally knew it. Days passed, then weeks. Life settled back into rhythm. Early mornings, coffee by the sea, laughter with my team. Until one afternoon, Mia showed up at my door, holding a newspaper. You've seen this? She asked. I shook my head. She handed it to me. The headline read, Former CEO Ethan Cole declares bankruptcy amid fraud investigation. Below was a photo of him, standing outside a courthouse. His suit wrinkled, his eyes hollow. He's been trying to find you, Mia said softly. I heard he hired a private investigator months ago. I smiled faintly, setting the paper aside. He can search the whole world, I said. He'll never find me. Because you're hiding, she asked. No, I said, looking out at the waves. Because the woman he's looking for doesn't exist anymore. That night, as the stars shimmered over the ocean, I walked barefoot along the shore. The water lapped at my ankles, cold but cleansing. I thought of all the versions of myself I'd shed. The naive newlywed, the heartbroken wife, the quiet woman who finally fought back. Each version had led me here, to freedom. Sometimes disappearing isn't about running away. It's about walking toward the life you were meant to live. I didn't vanish to punish Ethan. I vanished to find peace, to prove that survival could be graceful, that silence could be powerful. I took a deep breath and whispered to the wind, thank you for breaking me. Because without him, I'd never have learned to build myself. The story ends not with revenge, but with rebirth. He used our wedding money to take her skiing. I smirked, and disappeared forever. And in that disappearance, I became someone he could never destroy, never reach, never replace. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't being found. It's being free.